Good morning once again to you, Valen. Yeah, I tried all of that to no avail, but this is the last of the broadcast, and so I hope my voice will hang in there. But very interesting findings that you've just brought us in on. Very interesting, and it just shows, again, the relationship between science and technology and our everyday reality. So interesting point to ponder there. All right, my next guest, Valen, is from the iconic Sisulu family, but she's not here in her capacity as Shaka Sisulu's older cousin. And she said to me, I'm his older cousin. He's my little cousin, even though he looks like a skyscraper because he's incredibly tall. She's here as the acting DDG in the Department of Women in the Presidency. As you mentioned, Valen, this particular gathering here, this gender summit, much ado about that gender tool, women in science and technology. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Ayanda, and thank you for having me.
All right, let's speak about the importance of such gatherings for women in South Africa.
I think this one is particularly important and somewhat different in that it's looking for evidence to alleviate poverty and to empower women. Often we talk about how much there is inequality for women, there's poverty, there's unemployment, and there's greater unemployment for women than there are for average South Africans. And once you don't put the evidence to it, the tendency is that people listen and go, oh my gosh, and that's it. And this gathering, this summit is saying, let's look at the needs of men, women, girls and boys and the differential needs and put the evidence to say, if you don't do a gender analysis, you come up with the same results. But once you do a gender analysis, you actually see what the different needs are for women, what the needs are for men, and what the needs are for girls and boys. And then you come up to a different result. And that's why it's important to put the evidence that shows that there are actually so many disparities, and then we obviously need to take the next step and put interventions in place.
And how does it tie in with your mandate and your objectives?
Of course, the department has to facilitate and it has to monitor and oversee the implementation of gender mainstreaming, which is a strategy to say in everything that we do, in our legislation, in our policy, in our budgets, in our plans, in our programs, we have to ensure that men and women's needs are taken into account. And once you do that at a legislation, at a policy and implementation level, you're then able to make sure that women are taken care of from the very beginning. You don't wait for a 20-year review to say, oh my goodness, women are worse off than they were. Right, so we've made great progress, but actually women's progress has lagged behind so many more years. So that's why our mandate to make sure that we have the right indicators, that for every department, for every sector in the private sector, they're able to say and measure themselves to say, this is where we are in terms of the situation of women, as it pertains to water, science and technology, as it pertains to any area. And when you see where you are, then you say, what measures are you putting in place? And we as a department would then monitor that to ensure that you improve this situation. Is this a 2-year, 3-year, 4, 5, 10, 15-year plan? Is it a legislation? Is it a policy amendment? Is it a budget? Is it a plan that you're going to amend so that we can then track that progress?
Absolutely important. Thank you so much for that update. And of course, I couldn't agree with you more that it has to be more than just a talk shop where people, shock and horror and gasp and think that's terrible. And then you go back to your daily reality and nothing changes. So I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that you're cognizant of the issues and that you need to put some measures into place, make sure that it translates into what we see on the ground. All right. We have come to the end of the broadcast here. Thank you ever so much for having joined us. I know, Valen, you have a breaking